What are you thinking about, Steve?
Right now?
Yeah.
Legs.
Alright. So, Jared and Steve are training legs today. I am sitting this one out because if you guys saw the previous video, I have knee issues, but I'm getting that worked on. So what do you guys have in store for today? Or actually, Steve just broke his arm. Because he's the New York strongman. And then he went to Nationals 3, 4, 5 weeks ago?
Nationals was the 24th, so about, what's that, almost a month ago.
Yeah. And you broke it. Why don't you tell them how you broke it?
Fourth event was a sandbag carry, 300-pound sandbag. It was 80 feet down, 80 feet back. And kind of what's funny was one of the first strongman I did out in Wallkill, New York, they had a similar event. It was a Husafeld stone. It's basically like a tombstone that you carry. And it was more of a speed event. It was only 60 feet. And a lot of the competitors, they'd be going with the stone, and they would just fall flat on their face, like almost like as if they tripped, right?
Yeah.
And I remember watching them and kind of laughing and being like, why are they falling like that? Like, wouldn't you expect, if you're carrying something, like,
Yeah, you just let go.
eventually you'd like start to get fatigued, right? And then you'd be like, all right, and then you'd fucking drop it and not like face plant on top of it. And I'm talking like dozens of competitors. It was just, they would just like go and then smack. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then they'd get up and do it again. And I'm just like, why are they falling like that? Well, now I know why, because the same thing happened to me at Nationals. Because I went around the corner, and then as I approached the finish line, just as I crossed the finish line, right before my legs started getting really fatigued, and I'm like, couple more steps. And then when my legs gave out, I didn't go down like you normally would. I went, the weight of the bag just brought me forward, and I landed right on my arm underneath the 300-pound bag in my own weight. And it really wasn't painful. I genuinely didn't think it was broken at all. I'm not being a hard ass, like it just wasn't painful. It got really swollen. I thought maybe I had like a hematoma or a contusion of some kind, but I was pulling on it, and I had one event left. It was the Atlas stone, so I got suited up, I got tacked up, and I went to grab the stone, and I just had no strength in my arm at all. So on Wednesday, I went and got an x-ray, and it was totally fractured.
Smashed.
All the way. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I was able to get into surgery a week later, so that was on a Wednesday. Then I had surgery on Thursday. They ended up putting in 10 screws and 2 plates, and that was 2 weeks ago.
And you've been training legs 4 days a week?
What I ended up doing was, so an injury is a great opportunity to focus on other things. That's the only way you can look at it. This stuff happens. You have your knee, you know, injuries happen, it's inevitable. So you have to perceive it as an opportunity to focus on other things. So, great opportunity to focus on my legs, right? So what I did was I sat down and I put together an exercise bank of all the things that I could do. And it turns out, when you do that, it's like, shit, there's plenty of stuff I can do. So I put together a program where I do 2 days on, 1 day off. So I have a strength leg day, which is what I plan to do today, where I'll do a heavy strength scheme, you know, 8x3, 5x5, and more heavier compound movements with some accessories afterwards. Then the following day is a volume day, more like a bodybuilder day, like what you would do. A lot of single joint stuff, 5 sets of 20, 10 sets of 20, 10 sets of 5, just really, really high volume. Not so heavy because I'm fatigued from the previous day, but a great way to get blood flow in, get things moving, get some nice fresh nutrients and fluid into the muscles that I beat up the day before. And then the third day is an off day where I'll do kind of some stretching and some core work. And I gotta be honest, man, it's worked out great.
Steve, what do we got here?
Allegedly 515, depending
Allegedly?
on,
Why allegedly?
depends on what this bar actually weighs.
Okay, and what is this little pad right here? I mean, you're squatting 500 pounds, really?
I don't want to admit it, but the knurling on this bar is very coarse and it really irritates my back.
No, dude, it really is. All right, let's do this.
First rep sucks.
Smooth like butter?
First rep always sucks.
Like
Third rep
chemical.
feels even better. And I think my depth gets a little better on every rep.
Yeah, the first couple sets, it was like right there.
Increase the squat. Now we're ready.
Why are we using chains?
That's a great question. Why do we use chains? Let's dive into that for a second. Think about it. You can generate more force at the end of a squat than you can in the beginning, right? Do you agree with that?
Right.
So I believe that's what they call an ascending movement. An ascending movement where as you progress through the concentric phase, the potential force output increases. If you were to put that on a graph, right? Let's say this is the potential force output, and this is the movement. So bottom of the squat to the top of the squat, right? Potential force output, it looks like this. So they call that a strength curve, right? Of an ascending movement. So a squat, great example, okay? Now, if you were to graph the resistance of a squat, so right now that bar weighs, without a chain, the bar weighs 250, right? So if you were to graph that on how much resistance through the same movement pattern, right, just like this, it'd be straight. From the bottom of the squat to the top of the squat, the resistance stays the same, okay? What chains, bands, or accommodating resistance does is it creates a resistance curve that matches the pre-existing strength curve.
I've never done this exercise. What are the key points?
Your hips are in a fixed position, right? Throughout the whole movement, top to bottom. So your hips are in a fixed position. So when I'm doing a regular workout, it's really quite the opposite. My hips are moving a ton. It's all hips. So you essentially, you set your spine up in a fixed position, right? Deep breath, send the hips back, bring the hips forward, right? With a seated morning, my hips are in a fixed position, and I come forward, find my hamstrings, and come up. So, the benefit or, you know, the positive and negatives between the two, I couldn't really tell you, but one day I do them like this, another day I do them standing, and then the third day I do them to a pin. So standing to a pin. So just some variation.
These are great.